And I guess with that being said, unless there's anything else that the commission would like to add, we can go ahead and begin with the presentation from Christina Owen, the city attorney.
Commission members. My name is actually Ellen Osanek, so if there is a Christina Owen, I'm very sorry I'm taking your spot. I'm the Deputy City Attorney in the Portland City Attorney's Office. The City Attorney's role was to provide legal advice to the city, including commission members. In that capacity, I was asked by the mayor to act sort of as a project manager as the city council prepares to deliberate about their relationship with Portland's Joint Terrorism Task Force. To that end, so my role is to be an impartial provider of the facts as I'm able to discover them. So to that end, I prepared some initial answers to frequently asked questions and questions that community and council members felt were important to give everyone kind of a framework of a common understanding about some of the facts surrounding this. So one of the first places that I think is helpful to begin is to understand how it is that the city of Portland in general enters into federal partnerships. So in Oregon, when you want to, if you're a city and you want to enter into an agreement with another city to provide services or to share resources, if you do it with another local unit of government, you need to have a written agreement. But if you do it with the federal government, you don't have to have a written agreement. You can just agree orally to cooperate, and you don't have to put that in writing. So our current relationship to the JTTF is that we cooperate and we collaborate with the Portland JTTF according to the terms of a resolution that City Council passed in 2005. Some of the most relevant portions of the resolution directed that PPB was to remain a member of the JTTF executive group, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, but that we were to remain a part of that. We were to contact the FBI immediately with any information regarding possible terrorist threats, and that we were to collaborate on a case-by-case basis on JTTF terrorism investigations, and those investigations had to be limited to secret-level investigations that were consistent with Oregon law. One of the reasons that the council members particularly wanted to make this point clear is that there are a lot of reports that the city of Portland has has withdrawn from the JTTF, and that's not actually correct. Our cooperation is governed by the terms of the resolution, which does include participation in these limited ways. So the executive group of the Portland JTTF, it's a venue where law enforcement executives on the federal, state, and local level can receive on a quarterly or triannual basis classified and non-classified briefings and training. Participants in the executive level must have secret security clearance. So currently our chief of police is on the Portland JTTF executive group, and he receives classified and unclassified briefings. The chief has top secret security clearance under federal law, or federal guidelines. How does our current arrangement compare to earlier city JTTF agreements? For one thing, our previous agreements were in writing. And so they were formalized in a written MOU that was signed by the FBI and by the city. One example of the change in 2005 was that Portland Police Bureau officers assigned to the JTTF were removed from what you'll see referred to later as the squad of the JTTF, and they were reassigned to the city's criminal intelligence unit. So we used to have officers that actually served at the JTTF at a squad level, and we removed those people and only continued our participation at the executive level. A lot of people have expressed interest in understanding what other kinds of arrangements or agreements do we have with other federal law enforcement agencies in particular. So on the local side, you can see we've got all kinds of law enforcement assistance agreements with other jurisdictions, with the Port of Portland, explosives disposal units, TriMet policing. And at the federal level as well, we have numerous law enforcement agreements with them. We've got Fugitive Task Force, OxyContin tracking agreements, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, high-intensity drug trafficking task force. So we do serve in other capacities and on other task force. On one side of the equation, of course, is what is the level of threat in Portland about terrorism? And one of the ways to start answering that question is by defining terrorism. What do we mean when we say that? So the legal definition of terrorism under federal criminal law means activities that involve acts that are dangerous to human life, that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state. And the second thing is that it has to be appearing to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government, or to affect the conduct of government. Terrorism at the federal level is further divided into international or domestic terrorism, depending on where the activities primarily occur. And those distinctions are important because different types of laws around intelligence gathering apply, whether or not it's international or domestic. What is Portland's current terrorism threat assessment? Currently, there is no unclassified or non-classified threat assessment for Portland. There is some threat assessment information of a very general nature that the city's collected as part of its emergency management functions. But as far as a terrorism threat assessment from the FBI, we don't currently have anything like that from the federal government, though I think that in the coming weeks that we may be able to have an unclassified terrorism threat assessment. But there are some national database systems that provide some information of a general nature about terrorism. Some folks have asked if there is a state or local law related to terrorism. The answer is that for state and local law purposes, we don't define terrorism, at least with regard to our criminal investigations. We do have a state law that relates to criminal victim compensation, and it has a definition of terrorism that's substantially similar to the federal definition, and that's in order to facilitate funding under the Burn Grant and other crime victim grants. JTTF purpose. That's probably something that people can debate, but at least with regard to the information that's publicly available, these are things that I either got from the Office of Inspector General, who is an oversight agency at the federal level, or the FBI's website. So the Office of Inspector General defined a joint terrorism task force as squads within FBI offices that focus primarily on addressing terrorism threats and preventing terrorist incidents. They respond to terrorism leads and conduct terrorism investigations. They share classified and unclassified information with their federal, state, and local partners, and hold meetings for their members and agency liaisons. Additionally, JTTF coordinates security measures for all national special events. And I should also say, in responding to terrorism leads, they received the majority of those leads, or at least some of them, from the Fusion Center that operates in Oregon, which acts as sort of a vetting agency and contributes to the workflow of the JTTF. They're primarily divided into two major sections, international and domestic, like we talked about earlier. And FBI offices with larger JTTFs further divide their functions and create squads that focus on specific topics. JTTF members must obtain a top secret security clearance. Agency liaisons to the JTTF serve as points of contact and do not require security clearances. So if you're a police officer and you're serving on a JTTF squad, you must have top secret security clearance. In addition, there are intelligence analysts that are assigned to work with JTTFs, and I thought it was at least somewhat interesting to understand, well, what do these analysts do? And the example that was given in one of these OIG reports was that intelligence research specialists from different districts share with each other law enforcement sensitive information about a potential domestic terrorist group with ties to both districts. After reviewing the information and meeting with the FBI's JTTFs, the JTTFs in each district began and are conducting investigations of the group. So that seemed to me relevant about how kind of information gets shared amongst analysts and then with JTTFs. How does a city join a JTTF? Membership is requested through or invited by the local FBI office, and then we sign the memorandum of understanding. Can a city negotiate the terms of an MOU? The answer is yes. The FBI has a standard JTTF MOU to which the agency may make amendments. There are certain terms, however, which are likely non-negotiable, and that will be some of our questions going forward. Or, what terms are negotiable, what aren't, what terms might we want to negotiate if, in fact, the city at all wanted to enter into an MOU. In the past, the city did make changes to the standard MOU. For example, beginning in 2000, the city amended all of the standard MOUs to expressly require PPP members to conform their investigative methods to Oregon statutes. And then in 2005, the city council determined that they weren't able to make amendments to the MOU that they felt satisfied some of their concerns, and so we didn't enter into another MOU since 2005. Are there locales without JTTFs? At the last meeting, somebody asked if we were keeping Portland weird, and the answer is yes. We are the only major metropolitan city that has not entered into a written MOU with the FBI. They have 56 field offices that are located in major metropolitan areas across the United States and Puerto Rico. Each division has a JTTF, and we are not part of the Portland JTTF. Folks, I wanted to know who are current full-time members of the JTTF, particularly other jurisdictions in Oregon that participate in the JTTF. The answer is yes. The local folks that participate on the JTTF are the Oregon State Police, the Port of Portland Police, and the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And then there are a host of federal partnerships as well. What does the Portland JTTF force do? According to the FBI's website, they run down any and all terrorism leads, develop and investigate cases, provide support for special events, and proactively identify threats that may impact the area and the nation. A subject that has generated much interest and will continue to be something that we look at going forward is whether or not there is a difference that makes a difference between federal law and Oregon law, particularly regarding the ability of law enforcement agencies to collect and maintain information in the absence of a criminal predicate. So we have a law that I think many of you are familiar with, which is 181-575, and that prohibits a law enforcement agency from collecting or maintaining information about the political, religious, or social views, associations, or activities of any individual, group, association, organization, corporation, business, or partnership, unless the information directly relates to an investigation of criminal activities and that there are reasonable grounds to suspect the subject of the information is or may be involved in criminal conduct. Our law is modeled on an Indiana law that provides almost exactly the same protections. Someone had posted on the website a question about how it is that the city reviews the activities of our intelligence data to ensure that it complies with the 181 law. And the question was, for at least 10 years after the 1996 judgment in Squirrel v. City of Portland, and the person correctly pointed out that it's known as Squirrel versus Moose, because our chief at the time was Chief Moose.